About 970 million people around the world are living with a mental disorder, with anxiety and depressive disorders the most common. Suicide is the fourth leading cause of death among young adults. Nearly 3 in 10 adults have been clinically diagnosed with depression, and more than 1 in 6 say they are depressed or receiving treatment for depression. According to the National Science Foundation, 80% of our thoughts are negative, and 95% of our thoughts are repetitive. Clearly, there's a huge mental health problem affecting humans, and effective solutions are not known by the general public.
Major depression is one of the most common mental disorders in the United States. Many people are taking prescribed antidepressants to help the chemical imbalance that was believed to be the cause of the disorder up until recently. New research shows that the decades-old theory is not supported by evidence.
The study shows there is no clear evidence that depression is caused by a chemical imbalance in your brain.
Yeah, and this is absolutely landmark because for years people have been told that it's due to a lack of serotonin.
And so this paper is showing that if there's no association between depression and serotonin, that justification for using antidepressants isn't there. In other words, we really don't have evidence that they are rectifying an underlying abnormality.
But Professor, you know as well as I know that people will look for a crutch, they will look for a mask, something.
The mental health charity Mind spoke to more than 400 young people who'd gone to hospital in England for their mental health when they were under 18. Only 8% said they'd had a positive experience. Half felt they weren't treated with respect, and only 9% said their views were listened to.
Young people talked about a system that was failing. They talked about not having the care and the support that they needed. And they talked about often coming out with their mental health being in a worse place than it was when they first went in. So these things aren't isolated incidents. They are happening day in, day out in our hospitals to our young people, and it's simply unacceptable.
Austin follows a national trend of worsening mental health for teens. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recently released concerning trends about the mental health of high school students. In 2021, 42% of students felt persistently sad or hopeless, and 22% seriously considered attempting suicide. Both figures have increased from 2011.
You know, but I really feel like this crisis is so intense right now with young people. They are so lost in this mental health crisis. They need all the help they can get. I mean, it's a little frustrating to me. I feel like people over 50 or 60 don't understand the depth of this mental health crisis. I mean, it is killing our young ones. Suicide rates have tripled over the last 20 years. And in order to address it, I've got to share my truth. I've got to share my reality and my vulnerability. And I had mental health struggles. I struggled and struggle with anxiety, depression, loneliness, alienation, a lot of different issues, addiction over the years. And I need to share that in order to draw people in so that they can relate, and I'm not someone lecturing them. I'm going on a journey myself.
But what I hear you say there, you said struggled, but you also said struggle in the present. And I think that's really important because what's happening to young people is we have that list that we're checking off, right? I would be happy if I had a cool job. I would be happy if I had a nice house. I would be happy if I had a good life partner. And they can check all those things off, but they still have this empty hole that they're trying to fill. Do you represent for them this idea that you could have all those cool things, but still you could have loneliness, you could have pain?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I'm a successful actor. You know, I've been lauded for many roles, and I still struggle with anxiety, and I suffer. And in fact, some of my most unhappy years in my life were at the height of the success of The Office.
Why do you think that is?
Because that's part of the human condition. I think we live in a state of, of struggle and anxiety and dissatisfaction, chronic dissatisfaction. Here I was on a top 10 television show that was award-winning, playing an amazing character with an amazing group of people, making solid money, and I wanted more.
Does it just mean that your jails are going to keep filling up like insane asylums, as you called them, and we're going to see more mass shootings?
I'm the largest mental health hospital in the state of Illinois. I think the second largest mental health hospital in the country, which is an outrageous embarrassment for our whole country. So start with that. But when you have people that I have routinely come to my jail because it's the best place and only place they can get mental health treatment, that's a problem. And when you're looking for the preventative measures that can help us here, if you don't have places for people to go to get treatment, then it can't be on anybody's radar screen that...
If modern solutions don't work, then where should people go for help? Maybe there is a simple answer from our ancient past that has been here all along. Meditation and yoga has been practiced for thousands of years, and there are many benefits to it if done properly, such as healing the body and mind.
Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope you have a wonderful day, and today I want to talk about my yoga journey that I've been on for more than 4 years, every single day. So more than 1,500 days I've been doing yoga every single day. Now my daily sessions, they last about 4 to 4.5 hours, but when I started it was about like 45 minutes to an hour. And I was going to share with you my experience, the things I gained and I learned. Maybe it'll help you, give you more insight. Maybe it will inspire you to pick up the practice yourself. And maybe it'll help you you're thinking of giving up, and this will convince you just to stay strong and to not give up. About 4 years ago, I started my journey by taking a course called Yogasana through the Isha Foundation by Sahaj Sadhguru, and over the years I took more and more programs. By Isha Foundation, I took programs in engineering, Yogasana, Surya Kriya, and Bhuta Shuddhi. And from Art of Living, I took Sudarshan Kriya and Sahaj mantra. And in the end of the video, I'm gonna give you free resources that you can try. And there is something I do want to say about doing these programs versus programs that you can find on YouTube or Yoga Studio. The yoga that you see now in yoga studios or on YouTube online, it's not the same as the original authentic yoga that was done thousands of years ago. The essence of it has been lost, and it's become more of a commercial product. It's something people do to make a living. What I want to mention is the difference between what type of yoga I do in meditation and the difference between modern yoga and meditation that you see. The yoga that I do is called classical Hatha yoga. It's a sequence of poses, yogic poses. And there's said that each of these poses elevates your consciousness, and then if you put them in a specific order, it helps elevate your consciousness. Then for the meditations, I do what is called Kriya. What you see when you think about or try to learn about meditation, usually they teach you mindfulness meditation. They tell you to watch your thoughts, observe the breath flowing in and out, or some sort of guided meditation and visualization. That's not what I do. What I learned is Kriya yoga or Kriya meditations, where it's basically kind of like breath work or specific breathing techniques that they teach you in a sequence. And it's said that progress is made much more faster using this method of training. Once you learn a program, you repeat it every single day. You don't modify or change it. Maybe in modern yoga, they'll you go into a class, they'll teach you one sequence, then the next day they'll teach you another one, and another day they'll teach you a different meditation. With this, you might learn only one sequence for yoga and one meditation, and you just do the same thing over and over again, and you just go deeper and deeper into the process. You don't need to learn lots of sequences. Modern yoga, it's become a fad. It's been commercialized, it lost its true essence and true purpose of what the original purpose and meaning was behind these practices, which is spiritual in nature, and became more of a fitness fad and popularity fad. And what happened is more and more people who are not trained properly and trained in the classical methods just started teaching it. People with not much experience started teaching it because they don't know the core, the depth of the practice. And that's why you want to realize that these real authentic practices, you have to learn from a good source and a good teacher. And that's why I trust and I recommend to you these two organizations, Art of Living and Isha Foundation, because I can tell you they're legit because I've practiced it, and I'll share with you the benefits I got. But essentially it is I cured my depression and anxiety using these techniques just through breath and these yoga poses and meditation. And the thing is, if you don't learn from a master, you're not going to find the same powerful impact from the yoga or the meditation. It's not going to touch you as deeply, and you're not going to have a transformative experience. Another thing to think about is to realize, just like in the gym, if you lift the weights not properly, you can harm and injure yourself. The same thing can be done with these practices. You can hurt yourself psychologically, and physically you can make yourself sick if done the wrong way. So that being said, not all yoga is equal. You want to learn it from a legitimate and trusted source, and it's kind of a gamble because there's so much fraudsters and fake people and people that take advantage of others. So hopefully you can take my word and trust me that these two organizations, I would say, are trustworthy. And I'll share with you my experience of the practices and then what I've learned over the years. Well, in the beginning, especially when I was feeling negative, what would happen is I do the practice, and what I would notice is how I'll be able to shift my perspective and basically flip my perspective. So if I was in a negative mood, by the end of the practice I was in a positive mood. And it seems simple, but I know before I knew these practices, it took me so much, even mental force and effort to try to become positive. It would be so difficult to switch from negative to positive. And what the beauty is in the practice is it's all done automatically. You're not even forcing or trying to think or change your thoughts or emotions. They're just naturally transform themselves. I don't understand it, but all you do is you have a set of instructions, you follow the instructions, and you notice that you're changing. Something about you is changing, shifting, transforming. And then by the end of the session, you're not the same person that started the session. And basically, that same thing kind of evolves and becomes over time as you become more trained, becomes stronger, the effect becomes stronger, and starts affecting you sooner. So maybe sometimes to go from a negative state to a positive state, it would take me an hour or an hour and a half session to make that transition. But over time, it would become quicker and quicker and quicker, where within a minute, sometimes just within seconds of just starting the practice, I already made the switch, already made the flip that quickly. And when it started happening to me, I couldn't actually wrap my head around or believe how easily and effortlessly it was to switch states from negative to positive, and I didn't understand how it was happening. All I knew is it was happening. And I would remember how difficult it was to get out of anxiety, fear, depression, anger, whatever the negative state was. I knew how hard it was without the practice, and I was just amazed how effortlessly and smooth it would happen. And that's basically how the practice goes. And then you start to, as the negativity starts to go away, you start to experience more of the positivity, and you feel how this, like for example, now what I feel is like an overflow of love and joy, and I can feel it go through my body, almost like I can't contain it, like my heart is overflowed with love. I'm not sure what am I loving. There's no object to the love, there's just love coming out. Maybe I'm loving life or myself, I don't know. It's very like just unconditional. Same thing with the happiness. And the crazy thing is, things, you might have issues, you might have problems in your life, but when you do this, it's like they become invisible or they don't touch you, and you're able to just drop whatever before like would bother you and torment you and make you suffer. Now it's not even touching you. And so it's very, very strange how you can consistently feel joyful and happy with the circumstances that before would make you miserable. So it almost feels like living in a paradox. So many positive experiences that I feel during the meditation. Your body just feels so good, and when your body feels good, you naturally feel happy. So there's the physical aspect of it where your body feels good. Not only does your body feel good and energized, but you feel the sense of aliveness. You feel like full of life. You feel connected to life. You feel youthful. You feel exuberant. I feel like the spark and magic of life is still within me, kind of like being a child and being so amazed and in awe of life. Like life is still seems so beautiful, like how when I was a child, I would see it. It seems like magical and fairy tale, and you see the world, I see the world still in like a playful, inspiring way, not in a survival way, kind of what happens when people start to grow up and life becomes like dull and monotone. It seems colorful again, exciting. And then you feel this love and this joy and a desire to want to share that love and joy. And as this emotions evolve, you start to feel how your consciousness during the practice expands, and you begin to transcend the mind and transcend your own ignorance, and you see the truth of your soul as your consciousness expands, the truth of who you are. And it's fun and it's interesting to discover and learn these things about yourself, and to have the experience of transcending your thoughts, your mind, your beliefs, to transcend what you think is true, what you believe is true, and go beyond what you actually know. So it's very eye-opening experience. And the other things I could experience is, not every session is like this, but I feel like now consistently, every session I feel that you feel like dispassion, like kind of like not being able to, the circumstances not in life not touching you or affecting you, you're not reacting to things, feeling that joyfulness. The other thing is just feeling more stillness, less thoughts, you're very focused, you feel like you're like very, very focused and in the zone while doing the practice. And timelessness, you enter kind of this state of you're so present, you're not thinking about the future or the past. So even if you do maybe like a 2-hour session, it feels sometimes like, oh, it's only been 10 or 20 minutes. Sometimes a 20-minute meditation feels like it was just 1 minute. So time becomes a little bit more like slippery. What else do you feel? I think that describes it pretty well. Less thoughts, more at peace, tranquil, stable, not in your mind, and that goes to the meditations and the yoga. So all the different practices that I do, it's basically very very similar. Some of them are stronger effects in one specific area. Maybe one meditation is more specified to the feeling of getting stillness. Maybe another one, I feel when I do that specific practice, I feel more love and joy. So they'll have a specific kind of benefit. This is just a general outline of my experience when I do the practice. And then, before I would only feel these emotions during the practice, but over time it would start to spill out into the rest of my day. And then what started happening is I started raising the baseline of how I feel over time, and I started to feel better and better throughout my day consistently. Before it was just during the meditation, and then the peak will stop dropping back to the same baseline and start to like elevate, and I'll start to feel those benefits throughout the day, like less thinking, less anxiety, all those benefits, more joy. But the peaks will still happen during the meditation, and then the peaks would then rise as the baseline rises. Then during the meditation, the experience will become more powerful. So now let me go over and explain the things I learned and benefits. We'll go over 10 things. So I mentioned before, the mental health, number one, mental health. It cured my depression, anxiety, and panic attacks. So really, this is the thing. It does what it says. It really does work, and hopefully it can give people hope that you're not stuck the way you are. If you're miserable and you're suffering, your mind is totally controlling you and your emotions, and you can't get out of those states. Yes, you can. You just need proper training and consistency. And this kind of leads to my second point, is it takes time. I didn't feel the benefits overnight. Some people do. But for me to get out of my depression, it took me 3 years. And that was, as I was learning techniques, I think I found the right technique that resonated with me. And in one sitting, it just disappeared. So it takes time, and which the lesson with taking time is also, when you do a practice, this is very important. You do it with no expectation. You do it without wanting something in return. You're not doing the practice and saying, I should get this back, or I expect this to happen. It has to be unconditional. So you do it for its own sake. And there's suggestions. For example, when you do the practice, you do it as an offering to your guru, or you think of it as it's the very last thing you're ever going to do, so you have to give it 100%, and then that helps you kind of let go of those insisting on having a specific outcome, which holds you back. So it does work. You can shift your consciousness and enter altered states of consciousness. It takes time, no insistence on the expectation. Then what I would say is it takes consistency and commitment. This is the third point I learned. I didn't know this going in, that I would have to be doing this every single day, and I was ready to give up on day one. When I learned how to do this every single day, I thought, that is too much for me. But something in me, I thought, okay, just do it for one day. And the next day came along, and I said, okay, I did it one day, let's try do it today. And I just kept telling myself, just today, just do it for today. You don't have to do it forever. And I just took it one day by a day, and then I realized, I could do it for a week, I could do it for a month. And even in the scriptures they say, in order to feel the benefits, it has to be done every single day. It can't be a weekend thing. This is a lifestyle. You're committing yourself for life to do this. And my next point is, I already mentioned it, with my experience of how it changed my baseline, how my emotional state has become more has more equanimity, right? So it's stable. It doesn't fluctuate like this. It's more stable. It's not only did it rise, it doesn't go up and down as much, so things don't throw you off as much. You just balance like this. And when I do feel those instability or big jumps, changes in my state, it's usually positive jumps, like when I get super inspired or excited, or when I'm in the meditation and I start to experience my peaks, which are moments of bliss and love. So not only am I more emotionally stable, the baseline, I went from basically 180, from suffering and being depressed and miserable, life just being pointless, no meaning, to like living, to loving life and just being grateful and so overflowed with joy. Point number 5, takeaway or benefit, is being more present and still, which just means I'm less in my head. I'm not thinking as much. My thoughts aren't controlling me. I'm not so much, it's just more freedom. I think you understand. This is a thing, I guess, when people think meditation, they think of this part of not being so stuck in their head. And I remember maybe the first time when it did happen, where I was just sitting and there's no thoughts going through my head. I just thought like, oh, it is actually possible. I thought it was just almost like a myth. But then once you finally have it, I was so happy. 6th takeaway is focus. I feel like I have stronger focus and more energy. So what I mean by that, more energy, like I eat less. I only have 2 meals a day, and now it's vegetarian meals or vegetarian vegan meals. And the energy is, not only can I have more energy, less tired, I can give more, so I can push more. And I'm not talking about just the yoga, I'm talking about my whole day. I'm at a high state, I can work all day long, and I can push myself harder, so I have more to give. And there's even more of willingness to push yourself harder. Like you feel excited to be challenged. Point number 7 is diet and fasting. When you do these practices, you generally have to fast before you meditate or do your yoga. So that's something to think about. They have to be done on empty stomach conditions. That means a few hours fast before you start. And then what really made the biggest benefit is switching over to a vegetarian or almost a vegan diet. That's when I saw the biggest shift in my mental health and flexibility, was when I stopped eating meat, dairy, milk, eggs. After maybe like a month and a half, 2 months, I really saw the biggest shift and the biggest benefits and biggest jump. And they tell you from the beginning that you should, they're not going to force you, but they highly recommend that you change your diet. And I wish I'd done that beforehand, because I think I probably would have got these benefits much sooner. Number 8 is a feel stronger spiritual connection. And those moments of kind of blissfulness that I get to experience every single day, like literally I get into moments of like ecstasy. It's like I'm high on drugs or something like that. I haven't experienced it too much outside of the meditation, but yeah, these moments of, I've never experienced just love out of nowhere, just like flowing from my heart. And it's hard to explain, other than the best words is to say bliss and ecstasy. And the spiritual connection, what I mean is you feel a stronger connection of being closer to God. That I've only felt during the practice. I haven't really felt it outside the practice. What do I mean feel inside and outside the practice? It's kind of like when you're dreaming. The dream feels so vivid when you're in it, but once you get out of the dream, you start to forget those experiences. It's the same thing here. Some of these things, they feel so strong when you do your yoga, but then when the session ends, it kind of slips your fingers, and some of these retain, and some of them I can only feel when I'm doing the practice, such as this strong feeling of being close to God. Number 9 is I have an increased sense of intuition and creativity. A lot of the creative ideas that I get for music or things to do in my life, or what the next steps are to do in my life, I get it from when I'm in my meditation, and it just kind of pops into my head, and it really literally just feels like it drops like this, boop, it just drops into my head, and I have to follow through on it. So just great ideas, positive ideas, solutions come. And the last point I'll talk about is compulsion. So that basically means it's easier to let go of bad habits. I stopped drinking alcohol. I was never a heavy user anyways. I never got drunk. But so it's still easy and simple. But food, for example, I dropped eating a lot of sweets, just like junk food that I would like to reward myself for working hard. The meat, the dairy, my favorite food of all time is cheese. It was easy for me to just drop and stop eating it. Cheese and eggs. Those were my favorite foods before. And it was kind of crazy to see how easily it was to do this. And just procrastinating less. Being able to actually follow through with my schedule and goals I set in my mind. So those were the 10 points. I'm trying to think if I missed anything. But so now what I can do is I'll share with you some free resources these two organizations have, and some other meditation techniques you can try. But like I said, what you learn on YouTube is not going to hit you or impact you as strong as learning these legit programs. So all I can say is, if you're interested, just keep reading about it, and try it yourself. And if you do try it and you feel disappointed or you don't like it, I didn't even like it in the beginning. Like for the longest time, I just kept forcing myself to do it. But there will come a day where the tide will turn, the tables will turn, the tide will change, and things will go in your favor, and it's going to be all worth it. All the work that you put in, all the time, all the effort, just keep going, keep trying. These things do work. Sometimes it's just, you might have to change your diet, you have to adjust your sleep maybe. Oh yeah, the sleep, talking about energy, I mentioned before, naturally, if I just go to sleep without any alarm and I wake up, usually after 4 to 5 hours of sleep. So I have more energy, and I eat less and I sleep less naturally. I'm not forcing myself to do so. But yeah, sometimes you just have to go back and realize maybe you're not following the instructions properly. Just little tiny adjustments. Even though you're practicing the same thing over and over again, you can always fix little adjustments. And maybe if I make the last takeaway that I learned is giving it your all, giving it 100%, but also at the same time, you're not forcing things. And they say in the sutras, like this kind of yoga rule book, that when you do like the yoga poses, they're supposed to be, I think they said stable and comfortable or something like that. So you give it your all, but at the same time, you're relaxed. It's kind of strange. There's tension and relaxation at the same time. So you give it your all, you try your hardest, but you're also detached at the same time from the outcome. Alright, so check out the free resources. I hope they're helpful, and if you have any questions, leave a comment, and I'll see you around. Well, this is one of the resources that I talked before. I'm going to show you some free resources. I'm going to leave links in the bio that you can try out. But Isha, organization by Sadhguru, they have this offering called Upa Yoga. So it's kind of like a warm-up that you do before yoga, and there's some meditations available too that they offer for free. So it's all going to be linked in the bio. And give it a try. It's about like an hour and a half of material. And then I'm going to show you stuff by Sri Gurudev. So Art of Living, they also offer some free yoga and meditation material. Also, it's going to be linked in the bio. And like I said, these are the two resources that I do trust. And then if you ever want to actually try out some of the programs that I've done, you can go check out their websites. He's not a guru, but this is a free resource that I think is great and empowering. And this man is Wim Hof, and he has a bunch of world records. And like I said, lots of scientific research done into his breathing techniques. And this is something completely free that you can try out. I still feel like the programs that I've done go deeper than this, but this is a great start and a great introduction of the power of breathing. Link in the bio. And this is the last resource I'm going to share, where there has been scientific research done too, and this type of meditation is called open focus meditation. Thank you for watching. Best of luck. I hope it was informative. Try out the free resources. Look into the programs that I took. Maybe it will help you, or this you can forward it to someone who you think needs to see this. Maybe it'll help someone else. And it's not just for people who are struggling mentally. That's just common for people because they're looking for help. But if you're looking just to succeed and become better at anything, or looking for some deeper answers to life, this is for everybody, because there's so much unlimited potential stored within us, and this can help you access it. So I wish everyone the best, and be kind to each other, and see you around.